Rabbi Elie Mischel.
Thanks so much for having me. So on Thursday, I was reading the American Rabbis WhatsApp group. I'm still part of it until they kick me off.
It's coming.
It's coming soon. But, I read it because it makes me crazy. It gets me furious. And I was saying the other day, I thrive on fury. So it's good for me. They were debating on that particular day. They had heard that there was going to be a non-Jewish rally in support of the Jews of Colombia. And is this good? Is this bad? They had a whole, very rabbinic back and forth for a long period of time. But what struck me was how every rabbi on that group missed the key question, which was whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. I don't care. Whatever you guys think is fine. But there are 2 million Jews in New York, New Jersey. And how many of them are coming to Colombia to stand up for their brothers and their sisters? It's shocking. I mean, there were rabbis there of shuls in Manhattan. And instead of planning and getting their congregants, I mean, most of them were hotels, let's be honest. But nevertheless, there were still some Jews in New York. Not everybody goes to a hotel on Pesach, right? And why can we still not pull it together? There's only, 8,000 lunatics in Colombia and a few million of us, and we still can't pull it together? So what's going on with the rabbis, with the leadership? I think that's what Ari wanted me to come and to share just a couple of words about. I think there are several issues. If you go to Yeshiva University, and I love it, it's my alma mater. I went to like a zillion schools there, all different degrees and all sorts of stuff. I owe a lot to Yeshiva University. If you go to to REITs, the rabbinical school, and this already was 20 plus years ago when I was getting smicha. But if you go there, you'll find a tremendous emphasis on how to care for people, right? How to be an amateur psychologist, right? Which is what a rabbi basically is, right? An unprepared and uneducated psychologist, Doesn't cost as much as as my wife, who's a psychologist. And you hear all about that, and they try to train you in that way, and that's wonderful, and you learn halacha, and you learn all these wonderful things. But you know what you never hear about? If you're in rabbinical school at Yeshiva University or any other place, I don't mean to pick on YU in particular, you never hear about leadership, Jewish leadership. That to be a rabbi is not just to be there for people whose mother has died, which is of course important, and that's a big part of it. Right? To be a rabbi is not just to answer halachic questions. To be a rabbi is to stand up for your people, to lead. Right? It just came into my mind the other day. Where have you gone, Meir Kahana, or where have you gone, Rabbi Avi Weiss? It doesn't matter, right, left, makes no difference. Our nation turns its lonely eyes to you, right? Where are the rabbis today who actually stand up and do things that might be a little bit uncomfortable? Right? Whatever angle they're coming from, right? They don't exist. They don't exist, right? And that's a real problem. Right? In America, you will not find rabbis that way anymore. So that's this misconception of what it means to be a Jewish leader, a rabbi, right, is a big part of the problem. So that's one challenge. There's also, we have a challenge of fear, right? A fear of breaking consensus. America is an organizational culture, right? With all these big, wonderful or Jewish organizations, they all do wonderful, great things. Like we said, YU before in the OU, and here we have Mizrahi and all these different kinds of organizations, big organizations, right, who, because they're looking to raise money all the time, are afraid to say anything to the right, to the left. Right? There's a reason why, if you look at Jewish newspapers in America, right, the number one reaction, at least that I have, is boredom. Right? They don't say anything. There's very little in these papers. Whereas if you open up your average religious Zionist freebie paper, right, that shows up in your shul, it's unbelievable, right? They're arguing, they're debating, it's about the nation, and whereas like you open up the American paper, it's like TABC hockey, or something like that's the biggest story. They don't say anything because there's like a chill that's been placed over everyone. And all these organizations, they're all wonderful people. All my rabbi friends in America, they're lovely guys, but they're not raised to be leaders, they're not trained to be leaders. And they're afraid to say anything that will be out of consensus because they'll get slapped and they'll go right back into the middle. Right? I know it. And I've tried writing things I write things that get people upset. It's basically my only hobby at this point is to write things that anger people. The reaction is furious, way out of proportion to the number of people who might have read what I wrote. But the fact that there's somebody saying something different is it's against American Jewish culture. So we have real problems here with American leadership, and I think I'll offer a couple of quick suggestions. I think just a couple of quick ideas that we can to think about how we can approach that, and maybe try to remedy this. Number one, I think we're maybe in a post-rabbinic age, not a post-Torah age. But when I say post-rabbinic, I mean I don't think that the rabbis of America are really all that influential anymore. Meaning, who's more influential? A rabbi getting up and talking to his half-empty shul that hasn't filled up again since COVID, or an influencer online who's got, exactly right, the Rosh Geula, Ben Shapiro, or whoever else, right? I have somebody who's got 10,000 people listening. 10,000 for the Jews is really big, right? 10,000 people listening to their podcast. That's a lot bigger than the rabbi talking to a half-empty room. And so I think we should be thinking a little bit differently instead of banging our heads against the wall and trying to get a rabbi who's spent his life investing in exile to try to let's try to find those influencers. And a lot of them are young, and young people are a little bit more open. That's number one. And number two, there are rabbis, there are leaders out there who, with some encouragement, could grow into a role like this. They won't do it on their own, right? There aren't that many. Rabbi Meir Kahana and Rabbi Weiss, they don't grow on trees. But if there's a group where they can kind of rely on each other and create their own little bit of a consensus, where they don't have to feel like they're entirely alone, that can help them stand a little bit more komamiyut, with the back held up straight. I think very often, there are people who are mumbling and grumbling. I have to believe that there are some rabbis out there that really do care and are open and do believe this. I'll tell you, one of the most important rabbis in America, I texted him after the Teaneck riots a few weeks back. I said, Rabbi, maybe it's time to wrap up operations in Teaneck. What do you think? And he goes, I was just talking to my wife about that. So I said, maybe talk to your shul about that and you'll make history, right? But it's not so easy to talk to your shul about that, right? And so we've got to give them the strength. And maybe, my initial inclination is to attack, because I'm an angry Levite and my forefathers killed probably some of your forefathers at Har Sinai. But that's not the right approach, right? That's not the way that's going to work. We got to give them strength. We got to give them encouragement. Find the ones that we can work with and give them a good